Greetings everyone. Today I'll be talking about my teaching unit. In my unit, I'll be teaching my middle school students how to collect data, interpret data, and create a bar graph, circle graph, and line graph given that data. In my unit, I use the AEP867 model. According to the research done by Kim and Downey, they found that the AEP867 model helped to guide, plan, and develop lessons systematically and symmetrically to effectively integrate the use of appropriate instructional strategies, technology, and media for learning. If we recall, the A stands for Analyzing Learners, in which I had my students take a pretest on the types of graphs. The S stands for State Standards and Objectives, which I use to align the lessons so my students have goals to achieve. I selected various activities in which I used different strategies for students to learn the information, such as allowing them to work individually or collaboratively with a partner. Students were able to learn to create graphs, both manually with a writing utensil and virtually on the computer with the use of Google Sheets. Participation in all these activities was required to show comprehension of creating and understanding graphs. Lastly, taking the time to evaluate my students on their understanding, as well as my ability to evaluate how well I presented the lessons to my students. At the end of Kim and Downey's study on the AEP867 model in K-12 students, they found their lessons to be highly effective, and I can agree with the same with my class. There have been lots of thoughts on what are the best ways to teach math. However, it's important to note that at a primary level, that much of the math learned requires the ability to memorize information such as basic operations. When students get to the middle school level, learning takes on a different role as they encounter multi-step procedures, which presumes conceptual understanding, as stated by C2C. Guided practice with the help of the teacher and collaborative activities also are beneficial. However, not all problems are effectively solved by basic rehearsal. According to Kikas and Palu, solving word problems requires two things: integrating written and numerical information and selecting appropriate strategies. There's a lot more understanding and comprehension of a word problem than simply memorizing rules or calculations. Furthermore, with so many students doubting themselves in math, it's important to reflect and think about ways that they can connect with math so that they can be engaged and successful. According to Matthews, mathematics teachers who constantly show the interconnections of mathematical concepts and provided concrete examples of how those concepts apply to the real world had students who were more likely to grow in valuing mathematics over the course of the year. In my unit, I allowed students to collect data from their fellow classmates. For example, they took a survey of their favorite class electives. This information was created into a graph and presented to the class. The information can show what electives that the students favored and which ones they may be interested in having at the school, which could be brought up to administrator or class advisors. Many students tend to ask when information learned in class would be useful in life. Finding ways to connect lessons to a student's daily life or their future allows them to be more engaged as well as value the information learned. Overall, the AEP867 model is a great model of learning to use to help integrate technology. Using different strategies that include both individual and group activities allows students to have an opportunity for differentiated learning. Those who need help can get the help they need, especially if math is a subject they struggle with. Lastly, finding ways to demonstrate to students how the content learned relates to real life encourages them to value math and helps them stay engaged. I hope you learned a lot from me. Thank you for listening.